Hello, YouTube. If I was to tell you you are a weak, terrible, misbegotten, miscreant, bastard, piece of crap, you would not like me. But 2 billion people in this world love going to church and hearing the same thing. Only there's a caveat. If they give some of their money to the church and they believe in this dead carpenter, they can still go to heaven, even though they were made flawed in the first place. Because God apparently makes lots of mistakes, and if you read the Bible, He makes lots of mistakes in there too. The truth is, you've been lied to by the church. There is no such thing as sin. There is no Satan. There is no God. There is no Jesus. These things exist in the fairy tale weaving minds of ancient scribes. They simply aren't part of reality. The truth is that individuals have been told, I'm sorry, this chair here sucks dick. People have been told from a young age that they are sinful, in need of redemption, that there's some flaw about their character that they need to compensate for. What's the problem with this? Does it make any sense at all to tell a person, from the moment you were born of the devil, you're a terrible, sinful individual, even when you were just one little piece of sperm and an egg barely joined together, God ordained you as a sinful person in need of redemption. And if we had aborted you, you would have gone straight to hell because you hadn't accepted Jesus yet. And there are actually Christians who believe that, by the way. Not most of them, but some of them do. I just shudder to think that these individuals, number one, have the capacity to destroy the entire world with their nuclear weapons, and number two, they're in control of all the Western governments. It's really sad to think about. When you really think about it, it's really sad. But the truth is that they're wrong. The truth is that Satan is you and me. Satan is simply you doing what you want to do, living a hedonistic lifestyle. They will tell you, and there are some amusing pictures of church billboards of this on Google Images as well, that a free thinker is Satan's slave. That is, that if you don't think the way that they want you to think, that somehow you're less, that you are sinful, that you are going to hell, that you will suffer for eternity. That if you do anything that's not ordained by their book, you are a bad person. If you took all of the religious books on earth and took them all at face value and excluded from your life the things which they teach are wrong, you simply wouldn't exist. And they'll lie to you and they'll say every society has a Satan, so it must be real, and every society has a God, so it must be real. But they overlook that they're using a newer term than the original for Satan. If you take the original term Satya, then Satan is a good thing. It actually stands for wisdom. And they ignore atheist societies, and they say that they're terrible people and godless. Polls show that at least here in the United States, people have a lower opinion of atheists than they do of Muslims, simply because the Muslims still believe in a God, even though they blow the... When's the last time you heard of an atheist blowing themselves up in the subway to try to make a religious point? It simply doesn't happen. You will know them by the fruits of their labor, so say the Christians, and yet they look around and they blame the atheists or the Satanists for everything under the sun, and they ignore their own crimes and the crimes of other theistic groups. I will postulate this, that right-hand path theism is actually the lowest of the three possible groups within what you would call religion or mysticism, general spirituality, as it were. The right-hand path theism being groups that stress the male side, being groups that stress logic, order, written dogma, male energy, you could term it energy, I suppose you could term it male energy, that these are the lowest on the spiritual rungs of the ladder. And of course then you've got atheists. Atheism is better than right-hand path theism, because if you look at the animal world, and here's an interesting idea that the Christians have put forth. in debates generally that I've had with Christians, they will say, if man weren't governed by God, or by God's laws, or by a dogma, or religion in general, or they use different examples, but if man wasn't governed by some spiritual, exoteric authority, man would kill and rape and go crazy and crash cars into buildings and just go apeshit. That is what man would do. But if you look at it from an atheist perspective and you say we evolved from other life forms, we can look and we can say, does this happen in the animal kingdom within a specific species? Certainly species will predate upon one another. A lion will kill, the antelope and rip it to shreds. But do the lions constantly fight amongst themselves to their own destructive end? Of course not. It's biologically hazardous. It reduces their survivorship. Interspecies aggression is predominantly kept very low in species, except for certain mating rituals where the weaker male might be killed, although rarely so. Most of the time the fights don't result in any serious injuries, and they're just for show, essentially. Interspecies violence is low. So if you take it from a biological standpoint, man actually would, even if not governed by any laws at all, would still exist, would still be capable of ordering things. The fact is, from an evolutionary perspective, it makes biological sense that man would seek to order the world, that man would seek to create order. The problem is this. He created order long ago. Thousands of years ago, man began laying down certain laws to live by, certain dogmas, certain laws, certain cultural norms, languages, all of this stuff. What's the problem? The problem is we're using an Iron Age dogma to try to govern a world in which we have hovercrafts and space exploration and the internet. That's the problem. The problem lies in the fact that these dogmas, while they may change some over time, they do evolve in their own way. The basic gist is still there. The basic gist of Christianity, and modern Christians don't practice Christianity even remotely like the progenitor Christians do. The same goes for Islam, the same goes for Judaism. All of these groups have compromised and changed themselves to fit in a little bit more with the modern mindset. For instance, they no longer stone gays, except in certain circumstances, and then they go to prison. So, of course, we again weed them out of the general breeding population when they do. And then they just get sodomized in jail. But the point is this. We're using old, it's like taking a processor from a Windows 95 and putting it in a computer running Internet Explorer 7. Windows 7, sorry, I had a complete brain fart. It just doesn't work. It's not going to be able to keep up with it. It's going to work improperly, your system's going to crash, it's going to do all sorts of weird things. That's the same metaphor for what we're doing with religion. These religions are very old. They're not willing to compromise on a lot of their main features. Some peripheral laws they're willing to compromise, but they still instill the same fear and guilt that man felt was necessary back during the Bronze Age or the Iron Age. That's the problem. They're being lied to. We're being lied to by saying this is the one and only way to govern the world, to go to heaven, to be good people. Then why is it that the crime rate in some countries with extraordinarily high atheistic rates, with lots more atheists than we have here in the United States, why do they have lower crime rates? Can you even begin to explain that? I could literally make a video series 1 million videos long on all of the problems that Christianity and Islam, primarily those two groups, make in this world. I exclude the sort of left-hand path groups because primarily they do not teach violence. And they don't have a problem with education or technology. They may believe in tempering it for spiritual reasons, but they don't have a problem with it in itself. Christianity and Islam have both stood in the way of almost all progress that they've encountered for over 1,000 years. In Christianity's case, over 2,000 years almost now. They stand in the way of these things. Man is slowly progressing technologically towards godhood. It's my theory, and sometime 1,000 years from now, somebody might stumble upon this video saved on a CDR in the ruins of a building in some city that was long abandoned. And they will watch this video and they will marvel at my skills of predicting the future. I believe that in the future, man will be immortal. I believe this because with genetic engineering and all of the technology that we have, it is hypothetically possible to build a human being that won't degrade over time and get old. It's possible. I'm saying to you, it is possible to do that. It'll take thousands of years, but it is possible. We're progressing towards physical godhood, where our lifespan's getting longer, people are staying more active into older age, they're suffering, well, we're suffering more health problems in some ways, we get a lot more diabetes than we used to, but these are problems that can potentially be solved as well. Through medicine, through technology, computers, and things like that. But we've been lied to and told that no, we're not improving, we're actually getting worse. That man, over time, we're getting further and further from the Christian God. Jesus is going to forsake our country. There have been Christians that have pointed out the drought that we're having right now and said, oh, well, it's an act of God against a godless nation. Well, then riddle me this. Why is it affecting primarily extremely Christian red states with a high evangelical population, like the Midwest and the Deep South? There's no drought up here in the most atheistic state in the country. Does that make any sense to you whatsoever? They use these examples all the time. They never make sense. Earthquake in Washington, D.C. must have been God. Hurricane Irene, that's God too. Hurricane Katrina, that was to get rid of the voodoo in the French Quarter. These people don't have a working mind. They don't have a working neuron in their head. So you are essentially your own God. Your purpose in life is to have sex, eat, procreate, and die. That's your purpose in life. If you choose to give it a greater spiritual purpose, then in your own infinite godhood you have the ability to do that. But don't start ramming your beliefs down another person's throat, because they have the same right too. And that is the other mistake of Judeo-Christianity and Islam. They seek to make everyone homogeneous. They seek to make everyone ants, in essence. I love how the same people in the United States who constantly crow about, oh, no censorship, we need more freedom, more guns, less government. They have no problem with the church turning them into a bunch of ants, which is exactly how they appear to me. They run around doing their daily grind, and then on Sunday they all congregate in the big wooden building and burn some incense and say a few prayers, give some money to the church, and go home. Taxes are wrong, but it's great for the church to take your money. Government is wrong, but it's great for the church to govern you, or the Bible. But these things apparently to them make sense. In essence, yes, you've been lied to. You are not a sinful, fallen creature, and no, the world would not explode without religious law. Man is perfectly capable of governing without the use of the clergy or the Bible. As we've seen with our own secular law system, it actually works better when we keep religion out of the law system. And that is the truth. That's the inerrant word of reality, not the inerrant word of God, because God has no part and parcel in reality. Some people say, well, there may be a God, we can't know for sure. Well, I would disagree with that for one. But let's play devil's advocate and say we can't know if there's a God. How do you know it's not Zeus? How do you know it's not Satan? How do you know it's not Thor or, Dionysus, or a pantheon of different gods? Maybe all of the gods are real. Maybe there's only one. Maybe that God is completely malevolent. Maybe God is so absolutely out of his mind evil that he sent the Bible down deliberately so you would waste your life, because for some reason he doesn't have power over you while you're alive, but once you're dead, you're going to roast forever no matter what you do. So he gets a good chuckle at making you waste your life so that you don't enjoy life as much and have lots of sex and eat good food and, do all the wonderful things that you can do in this world. And actually God is completely bonkers, an absolute raving madman. Have you ever thought of that? That is a possibility by the same standards used by agnostics. And by the way, I despise agnosticism because I think it's basically wishy-washy atheism. Peace out.